Okay, so what is your current role at Just Search?
I'm head of social media and content marketing.
Okay. So how long have you worked in social media and content for, and what other industries did you work in before these came along?
I worked for the Daily Mail and Journal Trust for 7 years, so the Northcliffe Publishing Group, and I worked for the Research and Development Division of Northcliffe. And it was my job, or part of my job, to find different ways for them to deliver their portfolio of information, because obviously as a newspaper you end up generating loads and loads of content. And it was how we placed that content. So back in the day it was everything from RSS feeds to, I even spent a year in virtual worlds, I spent a year in Second Life, which was very strange. And then it slowly started moving into social media as social media started to appear. Back in the day it was forums. We had 84 regional newspaper titles, and each one of those through the This Is network and through motors.co.uk, and we also had Fish4 and a lot of other brands as well. They all had ways where the potential audience could communicate with us, but back then it wasn't really social, it was just commentary. But brand journalism and just people having the ability to communicate with you and to publish their own stuff, to bring information to us, became more and more important. And obviously after a while social media started to raise its head. I was lucky enough to get on the beta test for Twitter, amongst other things, and try a lot of things out as they first turned up. I worked with a very, very good team. We were lucky enough for one of our projects to win a BAFTA, and for another project to win the New Statesman Society Campaign for Change Award. So we were given kind of a lot of freedom to test new markets and new ways of delivering our information. We even did things like obituaries, getting all the obituaries information from all the newspapers and turning them into a channel where people could react to that channel, share information, etc., etc. So back then, even though there was no social media, we didn't know it, but we were trying to be social. We were trying to build communities behind our products. And that's where I first started. And about, let me think, about 5 years ago now, something like that, I was made redundant because, believe it or not, they didn't see the value in what we were doing, of all strange things. And I sort of cast the net out a bit, and I started following somebody on Twitter. And they asked, was there anybody in the UK who had any experience in this field? And of course, nobody really did back then. So I said yes, sent them over a CV, they looked at LinkedIn, this, that and the other, things went on from there. And then I spent the next 3 years working with a company, working with a lady called Monique Elwell, who's sort of ex-Medicine Avenue, very, very steeped in traditional marketing, but very, very savvy when it comes to the internet. We spent a while putting together proper documentation, proper strategy documentation, so that we could take clients' brands, take their proper core objectives and goals, what they were actually trying to do, and try and turn them into proper campaigns. And from that, I came to work for Just Search. I've only actually been with Just Search for, I think it's 9 months now. But being the head of the department gives me a lot of freedom to put good practices in place, because I spent a long time developing good practices and always seeing them happen. I've been very lucky that Paul, the head of the UK sort of side of the company, wanted people with a very strong background to take the company forward. So I've been able to build a department around that, and that's been a real bonus for me. So I'm happy where I am.
So how did you end up in the social media and content? You pretty much answered that.
I have pretty much answered that, and I think this is something for you guys with the agency life. You don't stick with the same thing. Little things come along and just drop a chaos seed in your life, and then there's all these ripples come up after it. Let me think, 20 years ago I used to drive forklift trucks for a living, you know. I've printed polythene bags. I once had to clean, I won't say what, but I once had to clean disturbing things out of the septic tank for a living, and I worked on the bins and on the barriers and things like that. And I worked in film and TV too. I worked on feature films. I worked for a company here in Stockport, a Steadicam operator, international Steadicam operator, and ended up doing his online marketing. And when I was at university, I did my MA in film and TV production. I was very lucky that the guy who was in charge of the experimental side of the course said, don't do drama, come over here and play with us. We've got all the good kit and we've got miles more budget. And a friend of mine and I wanted to make a kids' TV time travel comedy, which we did. And we took that to Yorkshire TV because I was doing experimental film and TV, and I was on the production side. I had to do experimental production technique, and that was back in about '95, which pushed me towards the internet as a way of getting my stuff seen. Because it's kind of, I always equate social media and what we do to having a brochure printed and leaving it in the stationery cupboard. If you don't do anything with it, if you don't do anything with your website and push it out there, it's just the same thing. So I was lucky enough to get kind of around '95, almost on the ground floor of SEO. Certainly I went to work for an SEO company in Long Eaton, near Nottingham. And that was the basis of me moving forward. But you just never know where it's going to take you, you know. I don't think you should ever think that anything's going to be your one career. They do say that you go through 3 big career changes in your life, and I've done that, so I'm happy now. I'll ride out the rest of it.
How effective can marketing with social media be for businesses?
Wow, that's a really open-ended question. To be honest, it depends how much the business is prepared to put into it and how much preparation they do beforehand. If they do proper strategy, and I'm going to use the word strategy a lot, but if they basically assess what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what their assets are, if you like, and what their limitations are. And the limitations could be anything from we don't know jack about social media to we've got no money to whatever, and their assets could be, well, we've got all this old video footage, we've got these old images, or we've got somebody who's really savvy about social media, or we've got loads of time at the moment. If they look at those strengths and weaknesses and they have clear tactics, and tactics aren't strategy, it's two completely different things, they can turn that into something. It depends what their goals are. I mean, we've done things like, I've worked with people like the British Space Centre, and there the goal is to get footfall, is to get people through the door. I work with wine brands in the US, and their goal was to get into Target stores, and Target's a brand in the US. It doesn't seem like something you can do through social media, but once we've got a clear goal, yes, you can. We built a community around that. The company was called Middle Sister Wines. We built a community around that, which was called Wine Sisterhood, specifically targeted towards women. It's a great community, actually. It's really fun to run, but it just grew and grew and grew. And they could say, look, we've got this following. Now, it's not always likes and things like that. Sometimes, like the Space Centre, you have to stand there with a clipboard and say, how did you find out about this event? But it depends what they're trying to achieve as to whether they'll achieve it or not, and whether it'll work or not. I've seen it work really, really well. I've seen it work really badly. Glad to say that the stuff that worked really badly wasn't my fault.
Good to know.
Good to know.
Okay, so how important is content for companies wanting to be successful online?
I think it was Bill Gates who said content is king, and it's true, but people look at content as just writing blogs. It's not, it's much more than that. It's identifying different parts of the purchase process. You've kind of got everything from people who are just mooching around looking for general information on something up to somebody who's ready to go for that point of purchase. It's finding the right type of content for where they are in the chain of purchase and where they are in the sales funnel, and also finding out what questions they're asking and answering those questions. And if you can do that, content is fantastic. If you just throw content out there that nobody's interested in, all right, there'll be some long tail on it. Eventually someone will find it through search, but it's essentially pointless. You've got to be answering the right questions and providing a service by generating content. And if you do that, whether it be white papers, we have very good relations with a video company called Wuxi, and we do a lot of video stuff, and I do a lot of video stuff here as well, script writing, etc. Whether it be podcasts, whether it be vodcasts, whatever it is, as long as it's targeted right, yes, it'll work.
Okay. And does marketing with social media and content have something to offer businesses that no other media platforms can offer?
Yes, direct contact with your user base. I mean, back in the days when I worked for newspapers, we'd say, well, this has got a circulation of blah, but we couldn't say how many people have read an advert. Now, with some ranging from pay-per-click to whatever, to what we do, we can say, yes, I know exactly how many people have seen this, I know exactly how many people have clicked through, I know exactly the message that you should be creating and putting out there, and the service you should be providing. Also, we do quite a bit of monitoring, so we do kind of crafty stuff, like we'll look at a client's competition, and we'll look at what people are saying about the client's competition. We'll say, oh, okay, these people don't like your opposition's customer service, so why don't you work on that as a strength of your own, that we have really strong customer service, and make that part of your advertising. So we do a lot of monitoring as well as broadcasting. For broadcasting when it comes to social media, there's a lot of different levels within social and within content marketing, where it can really work and can really make a difference.
And before social media became what it is today, could you envisage businesses and agencies being built around their social media services?
No. But everything's happened so quickly. Now all of us are a global brand. Every single one of us is a global brand. If you put this out on your own YouTube or whatever, you're a global brand, and you've got two things connected to you immediately that are going to spread your message. That is just, that's gold. I mean, back in the days, we didn't really have marketing, we had advertising, and advertising was just buying a load of ad space and keeping buying more and more ad space, so we saturated people's brains with enough information that they had no choice other than to purchase. Now, there's that personal recommendation now. We have clients ranging from skincare specialists and plastic surgeons. Well, a market like that, 50% of people listen to their friends and want their friends' advice. Now they can get their friends' advice through social media if it's done right, if it's shared properly, and if you provide the right content that people can share. There's no way I could have seen this happening 5 years ago, and I fancy myself as quite a futurist. I keep an eye on technology and how technology changes. Well, not 5 years ago, no, that's not true, but certainly 8 years ago, I couldn't have seen this. We saw the possibilities when I was working for the Daily Mail of communication and how communication was changing and how everybody was becoming a reporter, essentially. So yeah, we sort of saw the beginnings of it, but how it's changed and what it's becoming. To be honest, I think the age that we live in, sorry to sound romantic about this, but I think the age that we live in is one of the most exciting ages. We do live in the information age. There's so much accessible to us now that we have no excuse to be ignorant about anything. Great times.
Okay, and how do you see social media growing over the next 10 years?
10 years is too long to say. But when you've got things on the horizon like Google Glasses, and I'm quite prepared to look like an idiot and wear a pair of Google Glasses while I'm driving along, quite prepared just for the accessibility to data and to be able to click my eyes and take a photograph or whatever. When I was a kid, I really wanted a Star Trek tricorder. Okay, that was great. Now I've got a Star Trek tricorder. What's the next step up? The next step up is Geordie's visor, or the next step up is whatever, but it's permanently being connected. We are in the information age, as I say, and that's the crux of it. Within 5 years, I feel we're going to be heading more towards a semantic web, and when I say that, I mean data's going to find us, and it's going to find us through social and through what we opt into. A lot of people are very nervous about giving over their data, but I kind of see it the other way, that if I don't give over my data, I'm going to get false information back. If I go to, this is something just thinking about social media tools that it could all bring together, and just this device. If, say, I'm in a shopping centre, and I do a lot of walking, outdoor walking and things like that, but because I'm subscribed to different channels on Google+, it knows that I do outdoor walking, it knows that I have an association with friends who do outdoor walking because it's pulled in information from Facebook or whatever, then it can say to me, hey, did you know there's a 20% sale at Black's at the moment, just around the corner, and here's how you get there. Now that's really valuable information to me if I choose to subscribe to it, and that's, I think, where we're going to be heading. At the moment, we've got stuff called social signals. Sorry to get technical, boring on this, but people don't often speak to me. Social signals is basically if you're logged into Bing and you're logged into Facebook, down the right-hand side of a Bing search, it will give you all the social signals when you run a search of people who have searched, your friends, who've searched for things like you. If you run a search, if you're logged into Gmail, and you have Google Plus again, you plus ones things, and your friends have plus one things, and you're in certain circles, it will rank things slightly higher. The value to SEO is becoming greater and greater. I know at the core we're an SEO company, but we're very much an agency-based SEO company. If you come to us with a fixed lump of money, if you come to us and say, I want to be famous on the internet, I've got £10,000, we'll take that £10,000 and we'll optimise it and turn it into a campaign, as opposed to just saying, right, we'll spend all that on SEO, or right, we'll just spend all that on social. We'll turn it into something that will make you famous, or as famous as you can be for that amount of money. Across the whole broad range and across the whole spectrum, I'm feeling, and I would say this because obviously I'm head of content and social, but I'm feeling that SEO now is becoming more and more reliant on social and on content, the long tail of it, etc., the long tail of content. As I say, if you ask the right questions and reply to the right questions, then yeah, I think there's a great future there for us for social and content.
Okay. And when you're looking to hire for your team, what kind of skills and experience do you look for?
Well, they have to be able to make a decent cup of tea. It's very important. To be honest, it depends on what position I'm hiring for. You spoke to Adam recently?
Yeah.
Adam has a branding background. He's also, compared to me, he's more your age and he's quite young. That's very, very important to me because he's got a different attitude and a different look on life. There's certain brands that he's more suitable for. It's a shame that in many respects we can't recruit by gender. We can't say, right, I need a woman between the ages of 20 and 30 to specifically take care of this lump of clients.
Yeah.
Often we have to put, when we're creating brand voices and brand personalities, we have to put different hats on. This morning I was channeling a 22-year-old emo girl. It's a living. I look for people who, one, they have to be social. They have to be able to hold a conversation. They have to have a sense of humour because they've got to work with me and they've got to fit in with the team. Great presentation and good research is good. If I turn around to somebody and say, so what do you know about the company? It's one of my standard questions is, what do you know about the company? If they don't say, oh, you've got offices in Italy and you've one in Rome, one in Milan, and you're in Stockholm and you're in Miami and all this sort of stuff. If they don't know that kind of thing, that's very, very basics from our website on the About Us page. If they don't know that, then that's... we have a little signal. You might see this in interviews. We have a little signal. If you put your pen down on the table, you go down. And that's me. That's a pen down on the table now. But I think it's kind of strange because when I was a kid, I used to do tabletop role playing. Yeah. And we do a lot of building characters, which are brands. We take brand traits and turn those into a voice. I like to see people who are capable of doing that and have the imagination to do that. The core skills are great, and the things that you learn at university are great, but you don't really get a look at a person properly when they come out of university, I believe. Sorry about this, man. For a good 6 months. Yeah. Because that gives them the chance to get into the job, fit into the job, and see how they develop, which is why everyone is on 6 month probation. If they don't fit in, they don't fit in. Shame, but sometimes it happens.
Yeah. Okay, and what advice would you give a student such as myself to get into the industry?
To get into the industry as in marketing, or marketing specifically? Try it. Go out there and try it. For social, I would say start developing your own sites and your own brands, and also set yourself up as a brand. Because you are, and what you're doing is interesting to other people. It might not seem it, but university life to somebody 4 years younger is actually interesting, and you should be blogging, creating valuable content around it. In the same way you're doing now, you're also creating legacy. Yeah. You're networking with the university, things like that. And networking is very important. Get on LinkedIn. Start making those connections. And you guys are pretty proactive. You're quite lucky that you've got the opportunity to be proactive as well. I did do a placement, but I can't remember actually getting anything from that placement, like an email address. Not that we had email addresses back then, but I can't remember getting anything from that placement other than experience. Now I think it's a different world, because you walk away in 6 months' time. If you come back to me and say, Nick, I need a favour, I need to do such and such, I need such and such writing, I need a recommendation, boom, it's there. It takes me 10 minutes to write an email. It's not rocket science. Make connections. Get your LinkedIn profile sorted. Broaden your knowledge base. So set up a Facebook page about something that you're passionate about. Set up a podcast about something that you're passionate about. If you're passionate about football, or you're passionate about cricket, or you're passionate about fashion, or whatever, just do it. You've got an interest, you've got a voice. Put that voice out there. And for people like me looking at that as an employer, it shows that you're keen. Your writing samples are out there, and if you can show a following, and I don't mean by buying followers, if you can show a following, that has some value to me, especially for social. And of course, with content, prove you can write. We do have an online testing system for everyone we employ for content, but there's no substitute for experience. If you want to be a writer, write lots, write everything, write about everything. test, copy people's style, try different people's style, things like that. And for marketing, check out the blogs. There's a wealth of stuff out there, ranging from the higher end stuff on what the big brands are doing to what smaller individuals are doing. Just look for a bit of inspiration. Everything that you absorb, you will piece together and make something new out of. That's how the world works, and that's how we learn. Is we kind of learn by copying and then changing. Copy and change.
And what benefits can you see the age of life scheme for both students and employers?
As far as students go, I don't know, that's probably a question you'd have to answer. But once again, it's giving that experience. It's letting you see behind the curtain. I would like to think that by the time you leave us here, we're not as scary as we were on the first day to start off with, because we are quite flippant. We're very serious when it comes to clients, but the individual work environment is the same as most agencies. It's quite dynamic. There's a lot of enjoyment in what we do, and I think students on the outside don't see that. For me, you guys coming in is actually very useful. It's kind of like employing Adam. He's very useful because he's younger, and it's a different voice, and I get to hear things and hear expressions and learn about things that your interests and your passions, which I wouldn't get any other way. I don't have kids, and there's nobody I know immediately around your age that I socialise with on a regular basis. So just sitting down and talking to you, quite often I get something out of it. I mean, we've stood outside while I've been basking in the sun, and you know, we've talked about brands, and you've said, oh yeah, I've done that, and I've done that, and this, and that, and it has been an eye-opener for me. And from a marketing angle, that's very valuable. I think we're getting as much, or I feel I'm getting as much out of having you guys here as you're possibly getting us, the other way around.